All right, everyone, it's hypocrisy and conflict of interest time, talking a little bit about this dude. I'm probably going to butcher this name. He's a Swiss billionaire named Hans-Jörg Wyss, I believe you'd pronounce it. Probably wrong. I'm not Swiss, believe it or not, despite the fact that I am now in Europe at the moment. He's a billionaire in Switzerland. He's been contributing many hundreds of millions of dollars to pro-Democratic Party causes in the U.S. Now, here's the thing. Foreigners can't directly influence U.S. Elections and stuff by donating. Like, they can't give a check to the DNC. But they can give money to non-profits and other activistic groups that are multinational and help campaign on behalf of these groups. And if they launder it through an intermediary, they can give it to groups that are super PACs as well. This is how money actually operates in politics. In the old days, if you wanted to influence politics, you were in a back alley and you handed a brown paper bag full of bills or gold bullion or something to a middleman, and they brought it to the politician or to the businessman or something. You bribed them directly. In this day and age, you launder the money and use slush funds. And this is how Nancy Pelosi has made her fortune, despite her relatively lower salary, commensurate with the amount of wealth she has. A corporation influences you and says, look, we can't give you money directly because, it's a Chinese firm or a Russian firm or whatever, but we can set it up. We've got a retailer that's interested in buying like 10,000 copies of your new memoir. But we're encouraging you, by the way, and this is totally unrelated, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're encouraging you to, vote nay on a piece of legislation or sponsor a piece of legislation or something, or back or not back some policy, some proposal, some bit of diplomacy. Now, this is not a new thing. This has been going on in politics since before the United States was incepted. So let's not think that this is solely the result of globalism. It's in a different form. It's with a lot more zeros after it, and it's a lot more pernicious. And what happens here is, interestingly enough, the Democrats are the party that love now billionaires and foreign election influence. For all of their banter about Russia in the 2016 election, which never happened, that's been exposed by Giuliani, actually, which is why he got raided, trust me. For all their bullshit about that, and about how the Republicans hate the lower classes, the Democrats absorbed something like 90% of all the billionaire cash in the last election. They're the ones partnered with the people that are additionally taking additional money from billionaires, and then this is happening. What happens is that Hans-Jörg, or however you pronounce his name, takes his money, and he wants to give it to the Democrats, but he can't do it directly. So he'll give it to an activistic firm that quite clearly is working on behalf of policies and individuals that happen to ally with the Democrats. As long as you use a middleman, it's perfectly acceptable. Now, should it be? No, absolutely. It should be definitely illegal. By the way, there was an interesting bit by Glenn Greenwald a few days ago talking about the laws regarding registering foreign agents, people that are working like basically for another nation. And the skinny is basically the law is openly flaunted until you get caught, and then all you have to do is register and pay a little fine. So basically, we've got loads of foreign agents that aren't registered, and even though they're technically breaking the law, it's a toothless law, and nobody looks into it, because as long as the party that you're funding is the one in charge, nobody's ever going to catch you. And of course, if you're working for the neocon Republicans, they're working for the same party as the Democrats by and large at the moment, because they're the same fucking shit. The same thing, the two-party dichotomy has completely fallen apart. It's funny to watch liberals, the blue MAGA crowd, right now rambling about how great it is that Russia is angry at the U.S. and we're back in another Cold War, and we should warmonger after North Korea. And yeah, drones are actually pretty cool. I trust Biden to use that firepower. It's okay if we kill brown people now. Bunch of sellout pricks, basically. These are the NIMBYists that I always talk about. Plenty of Republicans among them, too. Basically, the Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney fans. Why do you think that the Democrats love Liz Cheney? Because she's a weakling loser that won't stand in their way, number one, and because she says she doesn't like Orange Man, number two. Because he's the only Republican, other than like the vague libertarians like a Rand Paul or something, that actually is willing to fight and doesn't cower when called sexist or problematic. So just ask this dude about the Democrats loving foreign cash. Apparently they love it. They love foreign money and influence in politics if it benefits them. It's only if there's some bullshit speculation about it funding someone that they don't like that they have a problem. Also, billionaire cash even internally. Look at Michael Bloomberg, whose money doesn't all come from the United States, by the way. Bloomberg, supposedly, you have a far left, like AOC, Bernie Sanders, Warren, supposedly. You have a left wing that thinks that billionaires need less money. We want a wealth tax. We want to confiscate their businesses and stuff and nationalize them, which is what a wealth tax would do. We hate billionaires. There should be no billionaires, says Bernie Sanders. But when Bloomberg, who's like 4 times wealthier than Trump, dumps $100 billion into the Florida race impotently, which was funny, and wastes a chunk of his fortune on that, not a word said. Have you ever noticed this? Billionaire cash in elections is a really bad thing when the Republicans were sweeping that money up. Trump gets in, says, I don't give a shit about the donor crowd. I'm self-funding by and large. I'm loaning money from Trump Incorporated to my own campaign. Isn't this hilarious? I don't need to suck your cock. And then all of a sudden, billionaire cash in elections is a good thing. And all of the corporate CEOs in 2020 that we were told are destroying the world, and they're disingenuous, they have too much wealth, they underpay their workers, they're terrible, horrible, greasy people. All of a sudden, they were #resist. They're woke now. See, all of a sudden, they're the good guys. Yeah, Bill Gates is a good guy. Getting divorced, by the way. I wonder why. We'll be talking about that in a New Tech exclusive later, actually. Bezos is a good guy if he burns books related to right-wing causes. He's a bad guy for being too wealthy. It's very interesting. Bloomberg is a good billionaire, but Trump, orange man, bad. And it's okay to have foreign election interference, which is literally what this boils down to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. But if Vlad the Impaler over in Russia delegates, supposedly, a Russian troll farm with a low 6-figure budget to buy one Facebook ad, all hell freezes over and cats and dogs are living together, no offense, Fada, and everything's terrible. It's very interesting how this works. See, politics is basically the art of making hypocrisy look believable. It's basically what it boils down to. The Democrats, though, by and large at the moment at least, this isn't traditionally the case, at least, from when I was a kid, are the party of the rich corporations and globalist war hawking and everything basically that the Bush Republicans stood for. The transformation's complete. The corruption of the Democratic Party into basically the party of George W. Bush has culminated. The paradigm shift is now nearly complete. The Republicans have become a populist libertarian fusion movement that gets lambasted as racist because a large chunk of the middle class happens to be white. Meanwhile, the Democrats are still considered woke, even though they're sucking the cock of literally every other Fortune 500 company. Virtually all of the major Fortune 500s and virtually all multinational corporations back the Democratic Party or the rhino neocons, who are basically the same thing. The Mitt Romneys, the Bushes, the Jeb, they want him to run for president again as though that's going to happen. Turtle Man. Oh, but I hope that he does run, by the way. We'd get some astonishing new memes. Remember that time he was in a hoodie there and he was talking about having a little toy turtle in his pocket? The little turtle pocket protector, whatever it is. It's like, cringe. This is what the Republican Party was before the libertarians under Ron Paul showed up, and then, of course, the Trump populists show up and complete that cycle. The Democrats are falling apart. You got one chunk of the party sucking off billionaires and the other part of the party pretending that it's not happening, desperately trying to avoid talking about it. Nobody ever confronts Bernie Sanders on stuff like this. Foreigner billionaires pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into Dem causes. And this is considered perfectly acceptable by these sellouts. It's the sellout left. The liberals used to be anti-war. Now they're like, well, maybe we need to get tougher on Putin. We need to start a nuclear war. Now, what are you people smoking? Don't answer the question, because we all know. As long as they have their dope and their taxes don't rise too much, they're perfectly happy to let the government trot on the third world. They're perfectly happy to let the government suck off billionaires. They're perfectly happy with NIMBYist climate proposals that'll do nothing. They're perfectly happy with having other people pay onerous taxes. Then they'll wonder why the economy's bad when all the rich people that are funding them anyway offshore their jobs. And the politicians won't do anything because those people own the politicians. Apparently they're owned by foreign hands too. It's like the members of Congress are basically, they're commodities that are bought and sold on a sort of quasi-stock market. That's basically what it boils down to. That's about all. Peace out.